Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Procrastinator's Pit Stop. I am sitting with a very special guest for you today. We are sitting here with Lubim from wingsforheroes.org. Welcome to the show, Lubim.
Thank you, Chris, and I'm really glad to be here. Thank you very much.
And, it's no problem at all. We're really glad to have you here. I think this is a very important message we're going to have on the show today, so I'm excited for it. Before we dive into it, though, we do like to have an icebreaker on the show. And the question for you today is which historical figure do you resonate with the most and why?
Oh, it's a really good one. And fortunately for me, I don't have to think too long. It's Henry Dunant. It's the founder of the Red Cross. A little bit background for people who are not familiar with who he was. He was just an average guy, a banker from Switzerland who happened to travel to Italy for banking business in 1859. It was June 25th. He arrived to a place called Solferino. And on that day, there was a huge battle that happened. On one side, there was an Austrian-Hungarian empire's army of over 170,000 soldiers. And on the other side, there was the imperial, which is France and Italy, army of about 140 to 150,000 people. So they were definitely combining both armies. It was over 300,000 people. It so happened that they met earlier than they expected. The intel was bad on both sides. Neither side had a breakfast, you know. French had coffee, Austrian had some wine or beer or whatever. They met early, and it was a really brutal battle. And it was one of those scorching summer hot days. At the end of that battle, there were more than 40,000 wounded and dead soldiers left in that field. And what Henry Dunant observed, he said that all these people who were still alive, injured, were moaning and crying for help. And there was not one person who was helping. So he went around local villages and he organized. At that time, there were mostly women because all men were fighting or hiding. He organized all the women, and regardless of what side they were on, they went and they helped all the soldiers. So they were helping the Austrian side and the Italian and French side. It took them more than 1 week to clear out that field. And when he finished, he was so deeply touched by what he saw that he wrote a book, and the book is called A Memory of Solferino. When that book came out, it received it was international success for a book, but it got so much attention that a year later, the Red Cross was started. So him seeing that battle, helping and writing the book started the Red Cross. And then 11 months later, after starting the Red Cross, the first Geneva Convention was signed. And the importance of the Geneva Convention is that it's how countries agreed on how we treat our wounded soldiers and also how we deal with bystanders, the peaceful and innocent population that lives in war zones. Um, I saw the Red Cross Museum in Geneva this winter, and it is a place that I think everybody should see because you walk into this room and it has these. When Red Cross goes into a battlefield after the battle is over, they collect names of people who died. And they put them on these little index cards. They're just these tiny index cards. And on the card, it says the name, first name, last name, from where. And then they send the letter. They send the news home saying that your loved one is gone. And for people who receive those letters, it's closure. Because if somebody is a prisoner of war missing in action, the family members never have that closure. They don't know what happened. And actually, people go on their whole entire life suffering, wondering if and when they will come back home. So that is actually, I think, what Red Crosses does is one of the most important things. Letting family members know that it's over. You can move on. You can go through a grieving process and you can stop waiting. And when you go to that museum, it's a huge room filled with these cards. There are more than 6 million cards. And the space they occupy is from ceiling to floor, and it's a huge room. And I was so impacted that actually I made the video, and our website has all the videos, all the public videos that I released. And there's a video on Red Cross Museum. So if your listeners don't have a chance to get on the plane and fly to Switzerland, you can see that video. And I think that seeing the amount of work that they do and seeing that there are tens of millions of people who receive the notes, because if there's more than 6 million cards, they have it's fathers, it's brothers, it's somebody's relatives. So, it's like one person we have a lot of people around us, our families, even the smallest family, if you have one or two or three people. So thinking about that there are tens of millions and not hundreds of millions of people who were able to have closure, it was really moving for me. And the mission that I'm running, just to give you the scope of what's going on in specifically Ukraine right now. Last summer, 2 years into the war, there were more than 50,000 amputees in Ukraine. So, it's a huge responsibility and a huge load that I'm carrying, trying to make all those men and women feel not forgotten and actually cared for. Henry Dunant was man who could not look away. And it so happened that I could not look away either. So the days when I start doubting myself, if I can do it, if I can take another step, I just think about the fact that what if he stopped? You know, if Henry did not stop, we would not have 12 million volunteers. And there's a lot of publicity, negative publicity about the Red Cross. And I am not a subscriber to those details. I'm just talking about one man, and he changed the humanity and he changed the world forever. To take it one step further, um, uh, 9/11 World Trade Center survivor. I used to work in one World Trade Center on 83rd floor. Our company was Streamline Capital. And when the towers were destroyed, I became a displaced person. I went in different states and I was trying to I left New York. I didn't want to stay in New York. So I went to California, I went to Texas, and then I ended up in Colorado, but it took a long time. And during those days, Red Cross sent me a check for $15,000, and they never asked for anything. They sent me a check, and they just wrote a note. We hope you rebuild and hope you move forward and find a place and work or build a business, whatever. But they sent me a check, and I will be forever grateful. And Henry Dunant is my role model, and it's to me is one of the most important people who changed humanity forever. And just to may take it a little bit further, he was pushed out of the organization. In a few years when it started, it became really successful. He was pushed out and he disappeared. Nobody knew where he went. It was more than 20 years he was missing until one day he was found working in a hospice, taking care of people who are dying. And he was poor. They gave him a place to live. Otherwise, he would be homeless. And they brought him back to Geneva, and he was the first recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. So at the end of his life, Henry Dunant was recognized by the world, and he got awarded the first Nobel Peace Prize for his work with the Red Cross and working in being a humanitarian. He never became successful in terms of wealthy or anything else, but we his work is still it still goes on. There are almost 12 million volunteers working for Red Cross today, and it was just one guy. So I am trying to answer the question that I'm being always asked. Look, man, you're just one guy. What can you do? I don't know what I will be able to do. I am trying to get the mission going, but it was one man who could not look away, and today we have Red Cross for almost 200 years.
Wow, such an inspiring and powerful story, Lubim. Thank you so much for sharing that. We're definitely going to dive more into these topics in a moment. Just to slide into things a little easier here, Lubim, how would you define procrastination, and what does it mean to you personally? And going listening to that story, I bet it means a lot.
Procrastination is putting things that we know we need to do, putting them for later. One of the things I jotted down for myself The biggest lie that we tell to ourselves is, I'll do it later. But we never say the date, we say, I will do it later. Like, I know you have a process. You say, I will do this. I have to say it out loud, and I will do it by then. So, you actually have a process to deal. Procrastination is normal. Everybody procrastinates, but there are different types of procrastination. And first type is on things that we have to do. File the tax returns, do the laundry, things like that, which at some point, you will, I don't know when the tax filing date in Canada is, but in America, you can procrastinate until April 15th. That's when the filing date. When is the filing date for taxes in Canada? Do you guys have a deadline?
It's fairly similar. They actually give us until the end of April.
Okay, so you know that if you're coming to April 30th, you are pushing it, and that night is the busiest night of people ending procrastination on things that they hate the most. And when you run out of socks and t-shirts, you got to do your laundry. But those are like important but small things. But there are things that we procrastinate on that are big things. And the big things, they take time to accomplish. So I will talk about Wings for Heroes. If my goal is to take care of 50,000 amputees, I realize that I don't have enough lifetime to do that. Even if I work 24 hours a day, I have a very small chance of taking care of all those people within my lifetime, which means I have to create an organization, mission, structure that will work after I'm gone. So just think about it this way. We all have things that are important to us: health, business, family, mission, places I want to see, things I want to do. And we also know that I can only do it for a certain period of time, right? At some point in time, I will be too weak to get up and talk to you and do the work and, travel, whatever's important to me. So having the awareness of that is extremely important. I think Steve Jobs was a genius because he shared with us the most important thing. And he said, I know that I and everybody who I know will die soon. So when you look at the fact that life, it ends soon. I mean, even if you're healthiest and the longest living person in the United States, 114-year-old, I think, is the oldest one. So if you think about how much time it takes to get things done, to accomplish things, big things, every day that you are procrastinating, it just brings you a probability of getting something that has a low probability by itself to ever coming to life, brings it like when I'm dead, the probability of me getting something done is zero. Okay. I cannot do anything. So I have that awareness. And I think Steve Jobs was such an important person of our generation. He was there building computers, iPads, music, iPhones. He brought all those things to life. And one thing that drove that man was the understanding that he will die. And another thing, asking himself a question, do I love what I'm doing right now? And here's the thing, Chris, I think procrastination is actually a natural defense mechanism. Because if I decide to dedicate my life to something I don't care about, something that I will get papers that will allow me to do whatever I want. Let's say I'm trading time for money, but I am not happy. And a lot of times people are miserable. That procrastination is a strong signal, a message from the universe saying, hey, man, maybe you're doing something that you're not supposed to do. And your procrastination, not in not getting something done, but actually in moving on, in taking, a different route, trying a different things, going after what's important to you inside. And I have this thing, I'd say we have two compasses. One compass is in my head and one compass is in my heart. So the compass in my heart, it doesn't really speak often, sometimes. And the voice, it's like that, that feeling like, I want to do it. But then the chatter starts, blah, blah, blah. You should not do it. Why do you want to do it? In my particular case, Lubim, you're trying to do things that the governments cannot do, that huge organizations cannot do. Nobody cares about these people. It's like, why? All this stuff, you're taking all the risk. There's no reward. You're not going to get compensated. You're not going to get, it's that chatter. But I learned with time that, this compass that's in my heart, to check in with that compass, that is important. So if I'm procrastinating on something that I don't really want to do, it means maybe I'm not doing something that I'm supposed to do. But if I'm procrastinating on something that I feel is important, well, if you think about the fact that you will die soon, I think it ends. And this is not the first big project that I'm trying, going up the staircase, it gets more and more difficult. You've seen history of my accomplishments, and I don't like talking about them, but it's important for people to realize, first I wanted to go to the Olympics. I went to the Olympics. Then I wanted to move to the United States and I wanted to go to the best business school. I've done that. Then I wanted to go in finance. And I kept moving up and getting to the top of my profession, and then actually going to Ukraine and deciding that, what, this time I'm going to make it about other people and not about me. And there's no amount of money. And, I had a very successful financial company in Denver, Colorado. I was one of the few investment advisors who none of my clients lost, none of my clients' accounts lost money in the 2008, 2009 financial crisis. Out of that, I got to co-author a book with Steve Forbes. And it was like I was standing on a big street that had all the green lights, no cars in front of me. I could go as far as I wanted to go anywhere, and I could get there as fast as I could get, because that book, it opened a lot of doors and gave a lot of credibility. It was 2014 it became a bestseller. 2015 I was in Ukraine working for no salary for the company that was most likely would not make it to the end. But there were people who had no leadership, and I could have said no, or said, I'll do it next year. Maybe I'll go enjoy my good life in the States, make a few $1 million, put it in the bank. Then I'm going to come back, that I don't have to worry about my stuff, but it would be too late. So to sum this whole thing up, there's procrastination is something that tells us that maybe we're not doing something, or maybe we're doing something that we shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for that.
Am I making sense?
No, no, yes, you're making perfect sense,
Okay.
and I really love the fact that you brought in the different compasses and the moral, right? The sort of the core values, right? And it's true. I mean, a lot of times, and actually, we I tend to say three. I say that the head, the heart, and the gut.
Okay.
And all of them have to be in alignment, right? Because I'll give you an example. So, and this was something that you procrastinate on, maybe on well, we'll give a harmless example. In high school, you have a crush on a girl or a boy or whatever, right? So you put it off because your head's saying, "Oh, she will never like me, whatever." Your heart's saying you want to go for it, and your gut's saying, "Yeah, nope, I feel sick, nope." So it's sometimes that they're not in alignment, but when all three are in alignment, that's when you really start to make progress. And it sounds like that you've managed to do that quite a bit in your life, which is great.
The head is hard, Chris. I think the head is hard because our mind likes to create a lot of chatter, and that's, Steve Jobs, he's accomplished things that he changed the world forever, you know, him being clearly aware that he will die soon and dying early and getting things done. It's like, aha, okay, look at this. Maybe I'm not going to live till 75, 80, 100. Maybe I don't know how much I have. Nobody knows. So if you think about that, and I really am aware of that every single day, that it could be over at any time, I think procrastination, that it aligns my head with the heart, and in your case with the gut, because I had a gut feeling that I have to do this. And in my heart, I know it's the right thing to take care of people who took care of me and allow me to live freely, to have conversation with you, to move around the world, to start a business, to take care of my family, to do what I want to do. I had to do it. Aligning, just quieting down the mind was probably for me personally the most challenging part, but it's been quiet for a while.
Yeah, that is one of the hardest ones is quieting the mind, right? Um, can you tell us exactly what you're doing at Wings for Heroes? I mean, I loved hearing this story when we talked about it before. Let's give it to our listeners as well.
Okay. I am a paragliding pilot. For people who are wondering what it is, it's basically we have this big plastic bag above our head with a bunch of lines, and we sit in a little harness. There is no fuselage. There is nothing that protects you. We don't have a motor. We fly. We're free flyers. We go outside of our element. We go into air. It's bird's element, and we spend there a very limited period of time. The first time I tried it, I was so scared. And just for your audience, I'm a professional skier. I've done a lot of crazy stuff when I was growing up. I think I tried jumping off anything that you can jump. And my lifelong dream was trying to stay in the air as much as possible. And then I found flying, and we can actually fly for hours. But it is such a not natural experience that no matter how strong you are, no matter how confident you and your pilot and anybody, my first flight, I thought I was going to die. I said goodbye to my father in the air. I said goodbye to my brother, and then I stopped myself because, like, I don't even know the guy behind me. I just met him, and now we're like hanging. The chairlift looks like this, it's like so far off. And going back to that experience, and seeing people who lost limbs at war, it was like a light bulb. I will scare them so much they will forget that they're losing a leg or an arm. It will not be for a long period of time, but they will forget. And as we know, there are a lot of cases in psychology to reset a person, it just takes that moment. So what I was trying to create was that moment when people who sacrificed everything will actually forget that they're missing a body part for just that little moment. And then I thought, what if we create space for them to come and rest, you know? And that went into submerging into cultural experience. And then we added physical therapists, and then we added a psychologist. So it's like a mission that is it's not only it doesn't keep growing in terms of getting more people. We're not going by numbers. We are in a stage where we're seeing what they need, and they go through so much trauma. They need a lot. And it's basically, I have created the environment where a veteran, an amputee veteran, we had amputees and we had deaf veteran this summer, where they can come and actually turn off the trauma. We try to create an environment. We're able to create an environment where they feel cared for, they feel loved, they feel safe, and they get to experience, like, they learn that they can go outside of their country, they can travel. As we speak right now, today is a huge day because our first, I don't even know, our first guest or our first person who we flew, his name is Valik. He went to defend his country when he was 19 years old. He was 20 years old. He got shot in the leg. He lost right leg. And because he's the first, he's invited to the beginning of the season and the end of the season. So he can come anytime. He came in April 9, and my physical therapist looked at him and she said, look at his muscles. So what happened to his muscles is because he is putting so much pressure on one leg that they're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And when your muscles are getting smaller, they're putting pressure on your sciatic nerve. And that sciatic nerve is the longest nerve it can push into his disc, and then he's paralyzed and he's losing his only leg. At the stage where we finish one round, they're all going home. There is a period of time for the next group to come in, but I knew he had to come in. And to get him here, we need to get him here for 1 month. And actually, last week I found the money, and right now he just landed. at the airport. He is probably on the shuttle coming our way. We'll be here right when we finish. He should be here. And I think it's a new day for a mission. We actually have one person who we are going to save his leg. And I think I know we're going to save his life, because imagine now he turned 23. He was 21. Now he's 23. It will be 2 years in June since he had his amputation. But imagine you lose one leg, and then because of not having access to physical therapy of something that is preventable, the other one gives out. And I think back 23 is when I went to the Olympics. So between then and now, I have done so many things. I experienced so much after that. He's a kid, you know, and we're going to save his leg, and we're going to save his life. So that's what I'm trying to do. I am trying to take care of people who took care of us.
And I really admire that, and I love that. I don't know. I mean, I've thought about it since we talked too, and I was wondering if it was, something about, I don't know if it's just maybe out of sight, out of mind. I mean, we're so distracted. I don't think it's that people genuinely don't care. It's just that we get inundated with so many things that we lose sight. Kind of like, when your parents take care of you and stuff, and they do all these things, but you're distracted by the TV, you're distracted by the other things, and you don't really take the time to say thank you, dad, or thank you, mom, for you know keeping me safe and doing these other things, right? So I really like that, you're focused on that, because it is something that is really important, and it's something that we definitely need to be putting more time and effort into, because at the end of the day, they're people too, and I think we forget that. So
I think it's hard to use words, because it can be misunderstood. But let's put it this way: there are people who can inspire us on such level that we don't even know. Because when you are around people who have lost a limb or vision or hearing or something that we need to be whole, be complete, like to a lot of people, it's the end of life. It's the end. But when you meet them and you see that first they went through rehab, there's a period of rehab. A lot of people stop there, not all of them make it. Big issues: suicide, alcoholism, drugs, it does exist. But there are few that make it, and there are few that not only make it, they actually do amazing things. My next guest, who will come here when we have our next session, he is a double amputee, but he walked on his prosthetic legs to the highest mountain in Ukraine, and he proposed to his girlfriend on top. Yeah. Imagine the whole country, the whole world, the Europe is watching it really closely. Everybody sees this guy who just lost his legs, and he is walking up the biggest mountain, and he's proposing. It's like, that will create life, they'll have kids. It's the continuation of our planet. They are showing us the best part of us. They're showing us, like, when we doubt us. I think part of procrastination is also could be because I doubt myself on some subconscious level. I really would like to, like you said, high school, I would like to ask that girl out. Growing up, I'd like to go to this school. I'd like to get this job. I'd like to start this business. I'd like to start a podcast and start inviting different people, right? But we have to push through that part, that self-doubt, because for some reason we were taught that if somebody says no, it somehow makes me less. I am counting no's. If you knew how many no's I got, it's I'm just saying, like maybe after 100, somebody will say, yes, I need a flying chair because they cannot run. I have to put them on the chair and I have to fly them up the mountain, a special chair. And I keep asking for people, we need a flying chair. We need a special vehicle. Right now, everything is tough. We understand. Somebody will say, eventually will say yes, because I personally was in the position. If somebody came to me in 2000, say 2008, 2009, 2010, the most difficult parts for everybody, the difficult times, I did my job. I protected my clients' assets. So if somebody, and I got compensated for that. So if somebody came to me and says, "Hey, Lubim, we're doing this thing," I know that I cannot help them with my time, but I would just write a check, say, "Here, man, take it." So I know that there are people in the position who can do it. And what I learned from the Red Cross is that there are three ways that you can help. Number one, you can donate blood because there's always extreme shortage of blood. I was in Wisconsin at the beginning of this year, and MAC1, American Legion, they organized the blood drive because they're so critically low. We don't think about stuff like that, but somebody is getting in an accident right now. There are several accidents going around you right now, and those people need blood. Donating blood is healthy. It's good for you. You know, it regenerates. You become healthy. So one thing, you can donate blood. Number two, you can volunteer, and volunteering is the biggest thing that we can do because taking that time and providing service is the most, it's not a sacrifice. It's the biggest thing that you can do. Just take your time that you will never get back and just go help somebody. You know, soup kitchen or elderly people or veterans. It doesn't matter who. You're servicing somebody else. And thing number three, if you donate blood, if you don't have time, you can write a check. That's it. It's that simple. Donate blood, donate your time, and donate money. If we did that, all of us, we would solve a lot of issues on this planet, probably most of the issues that we are facing right now. But people just don't know.
You're right. People don't know, and again, it's what I really don't like, saying this, but I mean it's true. I mean, we're competing with Grumpy Cat. I don't know if you know Grumpy Cat. We're competing with AI pictures. I'm not getting political here, but we're competing with AI pictures of political figures, right? We're competing with all these other things that are distracting us from the truly important issues. Which is why I'm so happy that you're here today to help, shed some light on this.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let me ask you, Lubim, what do you feel is the thing that would help move your cause forward the most right now? Is it those chairlifts that you mentioned, or the vehicle?
I think you're doing it right now because the thing, what I need exposure. And here is why I think the mission is important. We understand the part about taking care of people who protected us. But there is another point that I wanted to prove, and it is linked directly to procrastination. One of the biggest questions that I personally am allergic to is, what can you do? You're just one guy. If you reverse it, that most people say it quietly in their mind, what can I do? I'm just one guy, or I'm just one girl. And this whole mission, on purpose, I started by myself. And I did the whole work by myself until we already flew our first person. It was success. Then I went back to the States. I started the company because I lived in Colorado. I understand the corporate law in America. It's governed on the state level. I know the state laws really well. We have public service corporations, and that is exactly what I needed because I'm providing public service. I created that. Then I went around the world to see how societies keep promises to people who protect them. I went to Switzerland, I went to France, then I crossed to the United States. I went to all different states. I went to Pearl Harbor. And by the way, Pearl Harbor is the only place that keeps the promise, that keeps the memory. It's an amazing living museum. Seeing the scope of it and how they preserved everything, it really is, it's an amazing place. But everything else, United Nations, I think it's one of the biggest failures because, again, not getting political, but the way United Nations works is that there are 7 permanent members. So you have 7 countries that are permanent members. If they vote on something and one permanent member says no, nothing moves. So at $50 billion a year, if one country who is a permanent member attacks another country and all 6 members say, stop, you cannot attack them, they just veto it and say, yes, I can. And that is the situation that we're having right now. Now, they didn't stop there. They started creating extensions, like it's like an octopus. An extension of the United Nations is the International Criminal Court. They are located at The Hague, the Netherlands. I went there. It's a spooky place with so many cameras. You feel like you are just, it's creepy how many cameras there are. They're just, and then they have this huge police booth that is raised like, like a pedestal up in the air, and you're looking this huge booth that says police and cameras. You're like, what's going on? But the budget of the International Criminal Court last year was $165 million. And in the past 20 years, the International Criminal Court convicted 40 people. So they're averaging convicting 2 people per year, but they prosecuted only 4. So we have an organization that spends $150 million a year, but they cannot do anything. And we have the parent organization that's spending $50 billion, and really they cannot do anything either, or they're practically, the way they're structured, they're unable to achieve anything important. So the issue that, first of all, people need to know this because we are funding it. We're funding all those organizations. And the biggest help that I can get is saying, look, one guy, Lubim, just had this idea that he can take care of people, and he did it. I want to go back to the States. I want to move on with my life. I decided to go to Ukraine when the war started back in 2015 to save a nationwide infrastructure company. I just happened to be there and I saw how scared people were, and I couldn't look away. And then I see the veterans who are in really tough situation. They're in really bad shape, but the system cannot do anything for them because the system is overloaded. They're being attacked every day, drones, missiles. It's for real. Residential areas, hospitals. Russia is hitting everything. There's no red line. There is no stopping. They hit children's hospital. They send a missile in the children's hospital. So what can we talk about? And then they vote no. They vote no because they're permanent member, nothing happens. I am one guy. I told you about Henry Dunant, my inspiration. He started the Red Cross. I started Wings for Heroes just to take care of people who survive. They're done. We have no flags. I am trying to stay as neutral as I can. I am neutral. It doesn't matter where they come from. It was first Ukrainian soldiers because there are so many of them. And because I worked there, I had connections with the government and they said, okay, we trust you. We'll give you a live person so you can take a guy without a leg and just like run off the mountain with him. Okay. Somebody had to say yes. It was one of the biggest challenges, somebody to trust me. They trusted me. I got that person. Then we went through all admin stuff. Now we get to the point where it's structured. We have physical therapy. We have psychologists. We give them full immersion into the culture, away from war, peace and quiet. I just need a sponsor. That's all. I just need somebody to write a check. And because I was there, I know that by you allowing me to tell people about what we are doing now, that started with one person, it can move. And my next step in November, I'm going to the United States and we're close to Canada. Next, it would be Canada. And in a few years, we will be all over the world because unfortunately, wars affect people from everywhere. Unfortunately, there are amputees in Canada, in the United States, in India, in any country you pick, I don't know if there's one in Vatican, but they're everywhere. You know what I mean, Chris? So the biggest help that I can get is the exposure and people knowing that, look, there's somebody who's doing real work. I am doing real work. I don't get paid. It was all self-funded. I think I told you that I had so many things that I had to do before getting to fundraising that all I raised was like $36 and everything else was private funds, mine, and I asked my dad for help. That's all. That's all. If you say who started it, well, I started it, and my dad carried the bags too. He went for a portion of the road. If you, whoever's listening, whoever's watching it, know somebody who can help me to buy a chair, to fund the next visit of them, to fund the event. It doesn't matter. It's Canada, the United States, it's all the same because if you look at the situation, you have East and you have West, you have war and you have peace. And the war is moving from East to West. And in between, there are men and women who are brave enough to say, no, you are not coming to my land. You are not coming to my home, and you're not going to hurt my family or my countryman family. And they go in and they protect us. Now, if we don't take care of them when they're wounded, the next generation could say, oh, you know what? We just don't trust the system, which is kind of a normal, conclusion. So if there's nothing to take care of them, we are looking at chaos and we're looking at the worst outcome possible. And we all know that we cannot allow third world war to happen. We have to do everything because, the next, God forbid, it could be the end of us. It would be billions of people dead, or it would be the end for the whole planet. And it cannot even be spoken, but that's how important I think my mission and my role on this planet is. If I take care of them, I send the message that you're not forgotten. So it's okay. Just go. Stop the evil. Don't let them go west. Just keep them, keep them where they are. Or better yet, just get rid of them all. Which is, I think it's an impossible task, by the way. It's really a big dream, but we're still trading, Russia's still selling its oil, and that's funding the war. And nobody can stop it, because if you stop that, then you will collapse world economies for quite a period of time. Understanding finance, I can tell you that the results will be devastating financially for a short period of time. So we're all hostages to our comfort, to our big engines, to cheap gasoline. And if you think the gasoline is expensive, it's not expensive. If you turn off that spigot, it will go up, but it will hurt the economy. So I am extreme. I see what it does. I see what it does to us. We are out of sight, out of mind is the only way this thing can go on. And I think the biggest threat that is facing the Western society is apathy. When you see somebody who has no legs and you look away, because in Ukraine, there are guys, our amputees, they just carry like heavy bottles, and somebody's following with the camera and looking at the reaction, how people reacting at an amputee veteran carrying heavy stuff. Like, he has no legs, he's wobbling. He can walk around all day and maybe two or three people will help, will offer, can they take that? Can they carry this thing for you? It's like that. We are numb after COVID. First of all, we are all divided. You and I, we can stay, you can stay in your room, I can stay in my room. I can order food, I can order entertainment, I can get paid. I don't need to go anywhere. I can just be fine, survive, have a really nice car in my garage, take my elevator down to the garage, drive out, drive back in. I don't need to go anywhere. I don't need to have a social circle anymore. It really changed the way we are. But when people see a guy or a girl who's missing a leg and they're like in their early 20s, they know exactly what happened to them. Especially when they're wearing our logo shirts, they know exactly what is going on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's such a powerful sentiment as well, and such a great cause. We are coming up pretty close to the time here. Is there anything that maybe you wish we would have covered but didn't cover today?
I think you and I, we kind of went through everything. I would say, the one thing that there are two things that I really wanted to talk about that are related to your show. They're not really related to my cause, but in terms of a question, how much do you ever think about how much energy we use by procrastinating? I don't know if you are aware, but I had this thing that I knew that I needed to eat more greens. And that one, I need to eat more greens. I need to eat salads. I need to eat salads. I need to eat salads. And I would even write it on my calendar, and I would not start eating salads. And then I am thinking, man, it's just the eating a salad. Like, it's like months and months, just the basic, simple thing. So I went to the store, I bought this thing, and I started eating salad like this. I just ate the greens, no bread, no cooking. It wasn't a side. I just kept stuffing myself with the greens. And then I ate, I was like, wow, I cannot imagine I carried months of just this simple thing. So in terms of procrastination, I think it takes us a lot more energy to procrastinate and put things off than actually to get the thing done. You know what I mean? So that's one
Uh,
thing that I want to say, that procrastination takes more energy than getting things done. And another thing that I jotted for myself, done is better than perfect. You know, this perfection mentality, just if you are working on any project, big, small, something that you need to finish, but you are not finishing it, just finish it, then you can make it better. You know, you don't really need to rebuild it in your mind. And because sometimes we make things and they're practically impossible. Like in my mind, in the past 24 years, I've been building this thing and now it clicked, it's perfect. And I go and I try to build it, but it's practically impossible because it's too complicated. Just getting things done is more important than getting them done perfectly. The energy that goes into procrastinating, number one, is sometimes is more than actually it requires to get something done. And getting something done is a lot more important than postponing it until you can done it perfectly. So I guess those are the two things that I really wanted to highlight. I think we covered everything in such short period of time.
well, thank you once again for coming onto the show and sharing. Just before we go, though, what is the best way for people to reach out, contact you?
The most important part, right? I try to tell the whole story and put it out there. If you go to wingsforheroes.org, so it's wings, plural, number four, heroes.org. The story is there in terms of it's a snapshot in time. First, when it was started, I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Did that and updated. This is what has been done so far. So if you look at the website and you read all the web pages, it's me sharing with you what's been done up to the point of the last update, which was this April. And if you scroll down to the bottom of every page, they're actually all the videos that I have publicly posted anywhere because I'm trying to tell the story. The one thing is that I'm really bad with editing. I'm super slow and the story lags behind really far. And that's only because I'm doing everything by myself. So imagine if I'm creating videos and I have a group of veterans coming, I have to stop editing videos. I take care of them and I'm creating new videos. Then I go back. If I go and I travel somewhere, I have footage. So the videos are out there. They're just a little bit behind. But if you hit the contact button, it goes directly to me, and I will reply to all the messages. It may take a little bit of time, but I am the guy who is responsible for everything. I am the one. If you want to know more about the mission, if you want to know more about what you can do, of course you can make a donation online. But if you want to speak with me and find out more, you're more than welcome. And if you want to come and see what we do when we have our event, we're doing them in Turkey. November will be in the States. More than welcome. It's an open source organization. Like I said, it was done by me and my dad helped me for a little bit of time. Now it's me and the volunteers, and yeah, wingsforheroes.org. I don't know if you put up the links or not to it from the podcast, from your information. So yeah, tell the audience where it is, and it's really easy to get in touch with me. I am available to all people who are considering to becoming supporters in any way.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And to all our listeners, yes, we'll be having all the links, so it's easy to find the Lubim. And once again, Lubim, thank you so much for just being on the show and sharing. And thank you for your service that you're doing. And to all our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And just remember, if you can't find that motivation and inspiration for yourself today, maybe just go out and try to be that motivation and inspiration for someone else. And we'll see you again next time.
Bye.